Have you ever heard someone say something like, it doesn't matter what religion you follow as long as you're a good person? Or maybe you've heard people take it a step further and say something like, I don't even need to believe in God to be a good person. Left and right, we find people desperate to claim the title of good person without any desire to claim a relationship with God. The question I think they're asking, and the question we'll be answering in this video, is, can't we just be good without God? And remember, over the course of this 10-week video series, we're going to ask and answer 10 questions. These questions and their answers come from a book by Rebecca McLaughlin called 10 Questions Every Teen Should Ask and Answer About Christianity. We'd encourage you to take a look at this book as it goes a little deeper into each of the questions we'll be posing. We're going to look at topics like universalism, diversity, sexuality, the afterlife, and more. And our hope is that as we engage with these topics, we'll all see how faith in Jesus isn't about blindly accepting religious tradition or dogma, but it's about thinking clearly, critically, and rationally about life's biggest questions, and then coming to the realization that Jesus is in fact the way, the truth, and the life. But this video's question is, can't we just be good without God? Ultimately, no. We can't be good without God because God sets the standard for what goodness is. Now that's a bold claim, so let's dive right in. It's easy to argue something like this. Doesn't everyone know the difference between good and evil? It doesn't matter what belief system you're a part of, Christian, Muslim, Hindu, or atheist, we all agree that it's good to treat people equally, to care for people who are poor and suffering, to love people who are different from us. And we all agree that it's bad to be racist or bully or to start wars or kill newborn babies. If we all agree on the basics of what's good and what's evil, then we don't need God to be good, right? Again, the answer is no. We can't be good without God because God sets the standard for what goodness is. Here's the reality. Without God, there's no reason for us to treat people with love, respect, kindness, and dignity. Without God, there's no reason for us not to exploit the poor, exercise our dominion over those below us, and kill people who get in our way. Yuval Noah Harari, in his famous book, Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind, says this: human beings have no natural rights, just as spiders, hyenas, and chimpanzees have no natural rights. You see, when you take God out of the equation, there's no rational reason to be good and avoid evil. In the end, when you take God out of the equation, the distinction between good and evil ceases to exist because God sets the standard for what goodness is. And when we remove him from the equation, there's no choice but to admit the reality that we're no different from all the other animals on earth, and we're all at the mercy of natural selection, and our ultimate goal should be the propagation of our genes no matter the cost. But here's what's interesting. No one lives this way, not even atheists. Even the people who claim there is no universal basis for morality still live as if there is one. Which begs the question, if the strictly physical, scientific understanding of life offers no universal basis for morality, then why do the majority of belief systems all agree on the basics of good and evil? If the strictly physical, scientific understanding of life offers no basis for morality, then why do we all live as if there's a clear-cut difference between good and evil? I think the answer is twofold. First, the strictly physical, scientific understanding of life doesn't have a monopoly on truth. It doesn't paint the full picture of human existence. The second answer is a little simpler. Jesus came and he changed everything. It was Jesus who came along and asserted for the first time that all life matters. It was Jesus who came along and established that everyone is a child of God and that anyone could be somebody in his kingdom. You see, for Jesus, it doesn't matter if you're black or white, slave or free, young or old, rich or poor, because those distinctions mean nothing when faced with the basic Christian truth that each person has inherent value and worth as an image bearer of God, as a child of the King of the universe. When we take an honest look at the history of human rights, when we take an honest look at the origins of our most basic contemporary beliefs about human dignity, we see they find their beginning in Jesus. It was Jesus who radically shifted humanity's attitude towards children and babies. Prior to Jesus, it was common for families who gave birth to an unwanted daughter or child with disabilities to leave it outside of town, lying on the ground, waiting to die from the elements or to be eaten by wild animals. We find that idea appalling. We'd all agree that if anyone left their child unattended in a dumpster outside their apartment building, they should be imprisoned for life. But before Jesus, it was perfectly normal. It was common. It was thought of as morally acceptable. It was Jesus and his followers who radically changed our attitudes and actions towards children and babies and other marginalized groups. Furthermore, it was Jesus who asserted the value of every person, male or female, slave or free. It's impossible to articulate the magnitude of Jesus' effect on humanity's understanding of what's good and what's evil. Now, we've said throughout this video that we can't be good without God because God sets the standard for what goodness is. Without God, without Jesus, humanity enslaves each other. Women are seen as second class. Children and babies are left to die in the wilderness. Without God, without Jesus, all of these things are normal. They're morally neutral, maybe even morally positive. So when we stop to seriously answer the question, can't we be good without God? The answer is a resounding no. It's impossible to draw a moral line between good and evil without a God who sets the standard for what goodness is.